All right, with the head men's basketball coach, Mike Dunlap. Coach, we didn't necessarily do a welcoming press conference or anything for you. Just kind of opening remarks about taking over the men's basketball program.
Well, first off,
pick up the mic.
I have
Yep.
to.
Yep.
Oh my God, it's so heavy. uh, well, it's an honor to be here, and they've got a lovely tradition. And when we were at Metro State, it was always a battle. Well coached, tough kids, and so that flavor when it was time to interview for the job, that's what resonated in my mind is that the fan support here in the league is second to none. And the fever that the people have and the tradition of people having season tickets and have sat in the same spots is rare in the RMAC in that fashion. And Grand Junction has that in triplicate and in particular CMU. So I would say that was the single greatest reason, knowing that good coaches had lived and grown up here, and as witnessed by Coach DeGeorge and his staff and the players, what a remarkable job that they did. So I just wanted to piggyback on some of their success and go forward with it.
And Coach, moving into the team, you have a pretty new team this year. Give us gotta give us a quick outlook on some of the new players, and maybe mention a couple of the players that some of the fans that you talked about being here, same seats. Who are some of those people that they're going to need to know this season?
Well, Ty Allred obviously is somebody who's multidimensional, and he has great length, and he's 7'1" through his arms. So because of his labrum injury last year, that really brought him outside the rotation. And then people saw that there were things within him that would be a nice fit as he matured. And the way that their staff developed players, you knew that he was going to be part of that rotation as a junior and senior. So we were fortunate enough to inherit him. And then obviously the other one that stands out is Chris Speller. And Chris is somebody who came on late last year when injury hit the team and sustained the team with, oh my God, this guy can really play. And so we have that trademark of tradition. And then you have Austin, who is a pea shooter. He has deep range. He didn't have the opportunity because of better players. But now, as he's gotten older and mature, he's going to have an opportunity to be in our rotation. And in particular is that you have to guard him. So he creates space for everybody else. A couple of the Australians, specifically, we had 8 of them. I had 2 weeks to recruit to fill a hole, 6 of their top players being gone. And then a couple of the others, the virus of the portal hit early and often. And the upside of that was that whatever fingerprint that I had inherited, no assistance, was I just had to roll up my sleeves and call upon a network that was earned over years and years of traveling to Australia, living there. My daughter was born in Adelaide and coaching in that professional league for 3 years. And being a consultant for their national program, I was able to get on the phone and move quickly to get some of those players. And the reason they were available was because of the portal and NIL. There's been a backflow of junior college players and high school players that normally you would not be able to get your hands on. But because of that, the benefit is that I just said from, farm to table that I wanted to, along with the assistants, develop freshmen so that it fit with the identity of this community and school. And while you'll probably lose about 20% of those players no matter what you do, because it's the times we live in, I'll take the 6 of 8 that'll remain in that continuity of what's the big picture. And that is young guys that are thirsty, that want to go on and play professional ball in Australia. They have a particular appetite. And at Metro, we had a lot of success on that type of person who is elite in their desire to play after college. And so hence, that's why I had to, under the gun, go and get as many Australians, just because there wasn't anybody other than Fort Lewis that got caught out in that situation. So I just went to the toolbox of green and gold.
Coach, I'm glad you singled out Christopher Speller because he had just a phenomenal postseason last year. Talk about where you're expecting to, where you've seen him grow. Maybe what fans can expect to, see him from this familiar face out on the floor this year.
Well, when I met with Chris, I think it's important to ask good questions and not say a lot. And so, taking inventory, he has a desire to play the one. And given his skill set, and then the training of a quarterback is totally different if you're going to look at that position as such. And so it was easy to challenge him and say, okay, if we're going to run a multi-dimensional offense where people can pass, shoot, and dribble and be able to make key decisions in key situations, here's where your liabilities are. So we put those out there. He's bid on it. But Chris can also play small ball and play the four. So he's one of those Swiss knife guys. And so, I think that cutting to the chase is that we demand a lot defensively, and as Coach George did. But my point is that that's where he really shines. And I don't know that, because it's not sexy to say that, that defense is his ultimate strength. But he's unbelievable in space at getting deflections, steals, or frustrating people because he's that second guy in the gap, coach speak, but not letting people penetrate. He's very, very good and very, very handy and helpful when you have to guard the ball and you're dealing with offenses such as dribble drive.
Coach, there's no playbook per se for how to step in and take over a program, especially like you touched on in the NIL era. Especially with the returners like Speller and some of the other guys, has it been more, I just kind of want to get a feel for them, or is it more like, I need you guys to implement the culture we're trying to set here?
Great question. I would say that obviously anybody that comes in is trying to establish that C word culture. I'm not real keen on the word because I think it's very global. It's like saying how to climb the tallest mountain in the world. That's all pursued by the first step. And so I think it's about a set of standards. And then you chop that in half and you just say, you know what? Being on time is pretty important. Citizenship, opening a door for man, woman, child, or whatever, picking up garbage as you walk across the campus and saying, this is my campus. So those are things that are citizenship things that I expect from the players that are easy to glom onto and easy to do once you develop that. So that's number one is that how you treat officials. Regardless of the call, that's going to be mimicked by how the head coach responds on the sideline. I've been accused of being too stoic on the sideline, but I have a set of standards of my own in terms of how I want to act. And I feel that if you're emotional on the sideline, then you're getting an emotional team, and so I just think that holding yourself to a high standard is probably the best way to get your culture in place. So that's number one. And number two is identity. What's the identity of the team? In a former identity, it was 94 feet of heat. And then we played according to the pressure that we could apply. That leads to a quicker tempo. What are you going to do when you do turn the ball over? But it depends on your talent. And right now, we don't have that kind of talent to play with that style. That's fine. Just wear a different jacket, and in a jacket, when you have 10 freshmen, where it's simple, where people go, well, geez, I thought you came with some sort of a resume where, you weren't running a 32 or you're going to run what they call a delay game or a 5-out. That's very fashionable to say that, but that's not who we are. And so the second part of your question is I've just tried to create an identity. Number one, ball security, that we make good decisions and we make easy passes. We don't make passes that we want. We make passes that we see, and all of that's important. And we have a low turnover count because that means more shots for us. And then second is that defensively, thou shalt not give up easy baskets. And that would be 4 categories: layups, uncontested shots, free throws, and second shots are those 4 categories. And you want to mitigate those 4 categories where your opponent is not accessing those. And let's say it's foul discipline. And the best that ever coached this game in that area, without question, was Mike Montgomery at Stanford. And his teams would win year in and year out because they would, on a mathematical mean, average 16, 17, 18 more free throws than UCLA or whomever they were playing. So it was easy to see that they were disciplined in that area. And so I want the fans to see that, oh my God, these guys are very disciplined in those kind of specific areas where we're not just giving up layups and things like that that'll cause you to lose.
And then what are 1 or 2 guys, maybe some of the younger guys that are coming into the program that aren't getting a ton of love, maybe conference preseason, this, that, or the other?
Harvey White from Adelaide is somewhere along the line. People will see him, and he's an oh my God player in his simplicity and the way he runs the team. He's special, and he does it every day in the way that he plays the game and its simplicity. He doesn't complicate the game. So Harvey is one of those. And then somebody that has formidable size but is in the process of developing is Yak Yak. And right now he's not a starter. He would be somebody that's rotating in with our other 2 bigs, and that would be Will Mortimer, obviously, and then Ty's at the 4. So one 6'10", the other one 6'9", and then obviously Yak is 6'11", but he's 7'3" through his arms. And at 15 feet and in, his athleticism is very good. And so because he's so long, from one end to the other, he's not slow, but he's not fast. But when you see him go vertical, you go, oh my God, he has that kind of verticality. So I would say that I would point to those 2 that stand out. And the other freshmen, I would say, are ones that will take leaps as you see them play from game 1 to game 15, because, 18-year-old just doesn't have that kind of experience.
Yep. I'm just curious about the process of arriving at Mesa. I understand that you were retired beforehand. So was Mesa the one spot that you were looking to get back into, or were you looking to get back into other jobs?
My Achilles, this place. And Molly, my wife of 37 years, absolute warrior, just said, what the heck? Because we had been to Singapore and Australia, and I was doing talks and was helping and doing some other things, but it always included a vacation, which she deserved, and places that she wanted to go. So I gave her the compass, and I said, okay, on a quid pro quo, the national program is going to pay for our flights over there. Where do you want to go once we get there? And be it Hamilton Island, or it could be Brisbane, or seeing former players in Melbourne and having a dinner with them. She just wrote out her menu of what she wanted to do, or Singapore or New Zealand. And we did a 14-day tour with the bikes and the whole deal. Those were her menu. And so to come back out of retirement and to be here, it had to be special. And I just think that the school and the people here are like Iowa. I went to grad school at Iowa. I worked at the University of Iowa as a basketball coach. It had a very special Midwestern flavor. And this Vista has that. The community is special. So, yeah.
And then you spoke briefly about the discipline you want your team to have, and then the pride that they have. How do you guys go about that as coaches to kind of teach that? And then, like you said, the non-sexy things, how do you get your guys to buy into those things?
Well, today, the modern day athlete, all you have to do is look at the parents. And there's been dramatic change in terms of have your players, whether it's Coach Taylor or myself, raise your hand if you've had a job where you've paid taxes. And I promise you there'll be 0. If it's 1, it's amazing. So part of the component of somebody coming out of high school that really had to be landlocked on a job is gone. So then you say, okay, well, how do we make our players evolve without that blue chip in them? And one of the ways is that you establish consistency in the rhythm of a day of when they show up, how they perform, whether it's academically or whether it's in the weight room, the training room, and having manners with your trainer, and not seeing the trainer as anything but the head coach. Because I know how I will be treated, and I know that I need to treat them that way, but I need to point out to them that accountability and working a job creates self-esteem. And so without going too crazy into this thing, work ethic and being on time and pounding rocks is the way to elite. And there's no other way. If you look at whomever out there and you read the book, Good to Great, Jim Collins lives in Boulder, Colorado, but you talk about a delicious book, the common denominator, Malcolm Gladwell, Revenge of the Tipping Point, blank, you go through it, it's always about the work ethic, always. And so that doesn't come overnight. And so they've got to see that within the staff and myself, that there's an obsession that Hurley talks about. Well, that's all I've ever understood. This is my 44th year in coaching. I'm a lifer, and it's all I've ever known. And, you know, my point is that I need to share that and tickle their imagination and ask them what they want to get out of the game. And if they're all saying that they want to go on with the game, then the responsibility is to point out to them that it's an arduous journey and there's a lot of rejection that's going to go along the way. And so to explain that to somebody who's never worked a job, it's a tall order.
And then my last question is, offensively, last year's group was all about the analytics, 3-point shooting, things like that. You've had coaching stops where I'm guessing those things were heavily emphasized.
Yeah.
Are you looking to kind of continue to follow the analytic trend or kind of apply your own offense?
I think that the analytics has gotten in the way of common sense. And so if you were going to play the Spurs in their golden years, you were never going to get to that rim, and they were going to do a great job of contesting threes. So Sports Illustrated had an article, and analytically, you had to play your middle game, whereas someone like Morhe, who has gone to the outer edge, is wrong. And then you look at like Booker, or you look at the great players in the NBA, especially in the playoffs, and they're accessing the middle of the floor because the rim and the three are harder to get. But where they're right is that you want to reduce the amount that you're going to use that shot. But Brunson breaks all the analytics, and he's bringing that ball into the heart of darkness, and he's gutting you by playing at 12 feet with his pivots, his pass fakes, his feints, and he's either scoring it or spraying it. And so the analytics, that you can overdo it. And then my point is that I'm not a rejectionist of analytics. I just don't want to let it enslave us to common sense. And so I'm more of that ilk. And yet I honor anybody that said rim or three, and then they go to the 16. Who am I, to say that they were wrong? I'm not saying that. I'm just more of the guy who's probably got a dip in, is, on the side of the street, and will listen to the guy next to me who's lived life, as opposed to somebody who's saying, well, all you have to do is look at some of the guys that are preaching analytics, and they've never gotten near the game. And I like to listen to the guys that have played the game, that have become coaches and are stealing from the analytics to use it as a guide, but not use it in a way where you're just killing the spirit of your players. Oh, don't drive and don't shoot that runner. Are you kidding me? I'm not that guy. So,
Coach, you had a lot of success in the RMAC well back in the day. Kind of explain how
you didn't have to say it that way.
But just kind of what changes have you seen in the conference as you're starting to get ready for play in the RMAC yet again this year?
If you take the coaches, young guns, and really, really good young coaches. So when I was there, factually, it was more middle-aged. You didn't have a whole host of just ancient coaches like myself now. So I point and hoist myself on my own petard here. But you know, I look at now and I really like the young coaches and what they've done with their programs. Okay, and so that's number one. And number two is because I got sneak looks and they honored our team in 2000 and 2002 at Metro. I was at the games that were being played, and Fort Lewis happened to be playing, and it was right down to the wire. And I just thought that the players, athleticism wise, skill wise, the sum total was delightful. So, you know, I like that. I think it's a little more up tempo. So I can safely say that. And after that is the category of I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have to go probably a full year of being educated. You know, it's just a lot of don't knows here. And I just have to be open to learning from the young guns that are coaches.
And last question for me, you know, you've had a lot of coaching stops. Kind of explain what you've gained from, you know, each or even some of those that you look forward to bringing back to this young team.
Well, the one thing that I've learned is to be more open-minded. And then two is with the modern day athlete this year is the care factor has to be there even when it's not necessary. And that means being more proactive about texting and hearing somebody maybe talk about A, B, or C that could be a struggle down the road in their lives, and just saying, "Hey, I picked up on this. What can I do to help?" So that, and then if you're going to ask the question, follow through on it. Don't just be rhetorical and then also just a blowhard, not follow up. So I think that carries a lot of weight with your players on follow through when the care factor is strong. So I've learned to be that more than I was before. Before I was more stoic and more gritty, and then they had to come my way in a tougher way, quite frankly. And they did, but I do think that maybe I lost some player relationships that I shouldn't have lost. You know, and so I think I'll probably gain more relationships in the way I am now. And then third is that I'm a better game coach. Being in the thin air in the NBA, it's made me understand what's happening and then have more tools in my toolbox to maybe quell that momentum that the other team has in that way, knowing that players are the ones that ultimately do that. I don't, but I think I can help them more.
Coach, do you feel like having 10 freshmen, a whole new team, you can kind of get back to your basics of being teacher of the game that you
Yeah.
really are? And
Absolutely.
how has it been as fun as you thought it was
More
going to
than
be?
that. It's been fulfilling. We had an unbelievable practice this morning, and then we were clicking along in our chunks of time and what we were working on. And then I saw that we needed to work on defending the dribble more. So randomly, I just made a game out of it, and then we deviated from the practice plan a third of it, and just did that. And then I made a game out of it, you know, with time and score. And the joy factor went from, to get that in their drill, that next drill, to just, they were running around crazy. And then one of the players had to validate the victory for their team by making the free throw. And I was messing with them, and I came across and did some stuff. And then he made the shot, Austin it was, and then he went to me, and because I had flashed him one of those when he had missed one of those like 2 weeks ago, he hadn't forgotten. So he gave me my own medicine, and the players fell out. They were just like loving that. And so I'm more willing to have those kind of moments with the players without being so stoic that I have to show that I'm the head coach. I'm more vulnerable. And so, yeah, that's exactly why I came back, is that I wanted more of that with players, and I couldn't get that in retirement.
Yeah. Well, and like somebody said, you've been able to take so much from the different stops at every level of the game and kind of fall back on that. But then again, you don't want to just tell them, well, in the NBA, they do this, because you've got to kind of bring it back to this level.
You're exactly right.
Cool moment.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, let's say I use Curry as an example. Curry doesn't mean a lot to these kids, as much as Ant does from Minnesota. So you have to be current in the not only what you're talking about and have the pulse of this generation, but your examples in your vernacular has to be married to the age of the team. So it keeps you on your toes, is saying, that's there. It's not that our kids disrespect Curry or they didn't see what happened in the Olympics or whatever. But if you're going to talk about, NBA world titles, being a part of the Bucks or whatever, yeah, they're curious about Giannis. Of course they are. But curious in a way where they'd rather talk about Ant. It's not close. Or Brunson. I'd much rather talk about Brunson than Curry. Much rather. It's just, those younger kids are in there. And so it makes you to be current. It challenges you more. So that's what I love about, whether it's today and today's practice of enjoying it. But you know what? I have really good assistants and they keep me current too. So it's not so much what I bring to the party. It's just that in a tough moment, I probably can either help an individual a little bit more, or I can address the situation with a different tool that I didn't have 10 years ago, because I've witnessed a lot of great coaches. So I'm able to steal from them, basically.
All right, Coach. Last question of the day. Toughest one.
There you go. It's going to ask me about the Super Bowl.
Favorite
Detroit Lions, baby. Yeah. No, all right. Broncos. All right. No. Anyway, go ahead.
Favorite Halloween candy.
Oh my God. Corn, baby. Bring those little. I throw those in by the 30s, and I'm old school on that, but yeah, that would be it for me. Don't get it. I can't even deal with one because that's going to 30 like that. But anyway, yeah, what do they call that? Sweet corn? Or
Candy corn?
Candy corn. Yeah, I'm a candy corn guy, and plus they're just great. So yeah, I'm straight sugar too. It's like, yeah. Thanks, you guys.
Perfect. Thanks, Coach.
I think that's the first Malcolm Gladwell